Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Two Dads Having a Beer. It's a great show. I'm your host. It kind of makes it even better, right? So we want to again thank you for being here today. I'm super stoked to have all of you here. It's the ultimate hangouts for dads and listeners where we can just have a good laugh, a cold brew, and I just dropped my coaster, so hopefully I don't ruin this plastic with that. But each week we're joined by a new guest dad. We try and mix it up on this show to make sure that nobody is getting bored. It's a fellow warrior in the trenches of fatherhood, and we talk about all things dad related. And we do dad jokes, we do dad fails, which I've had quite a few of them. And we talk about the joys and the challenges of balancing work and life as an entrepreneur and as a dad. We cover it all. This week we are joined by my man Austin Blanton. My man is a barber, and he's the one that hooks me up and makes me look this good almost all the time. And sometimes it's hard for me to get in there, but you know what? He always seems to find a way, and I do appreciate that. Austin is a young veteran father and husband. He's 32 years old, so he's kicking it new style with that old style cut, using good old blades and razors and canvas as his. Our heads are his canvas. So he is the co-owner of Gents and Co Barbershop right here in beautiful Gainesville, Florida, the Sunshine State. He's been married for just under 12 years to his beautiful wife. He's the father of two kids, right? One of them is named Natty, and the other one is named AJ.
Yep.
And Natty and AJ are both active young souls playing softball, Brazilian jiu-jitsu, and they always go outdooring. Like every time I go to the barbershop, I always have to talk to him about where he's gone lately because he loves being on the trails in his Toyota. And so he's also an Army veteran. He's done 2 tours in Afghanistan, and he's a Brazilian jiu-jitsu fighter, and he's a blue belt. He's still training, but at the end of the day, this blue moon could take that blue belt. I'm pretty sure of it. And I think it's mostly because of the weight advantage. But he spends his time with his family and doing outdoor stuff. And thank you so much for joining, ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Austin Blanton.
Hey, thank you. I appreciate it. Your barber's here, man.
You, man. So one of the things that I love about talking to you about, well, first of all, do you got a beer?
I do, actually. Look at this.
You have got
Little
the same
First
beer that I drank
Magnitude Honeybee.
last week. Such a freaking good First Magnitude, right? The Honeybee
Yes, sir.
Blonde Ale. What a really good beer. This week, I'm actually going to be enjoying a Swamp Head Brewery, another local Gainesville beer, right? Brewery.
Good pick.
This one's called Morning Glory, a vanilla
Ooh,
coffee blonde ale.
that's a good one. That's a good one.
It does sound like a good one. So let me do this real quick. Oh, man. Thank you so much. Here, cheers.
Oh, cheers, brother. Got a little on my screen.
Yeah, you know what? As long as you don't get that on your lower back.
Hey, well, it happens sometimes.
So, man, I appreciate you coming in today, man. It is really one of those things where we have a premise, right? This show is about dads, right? There are certain things that you have to have in order to be a guest on the show. One of them is you drink a beer. You're old enough to have one of those.
Yep.
And 2, you have to have kids, right? You have to be a father. Right. And so being able to satisfy those 2 things is really important. And you don't actually have to be a business owner to be on the show because most dads work. And so balancing work and your life at home is something that we all have to do regardless. But the beauty of it is you are actually a co-owner of a very, very popular and busy barbershop. Tell us a little bit about, why you decided to go into barbering as a career and how your shop has kind of taken off to the level that it's at right now you service some really prestigious clients, not just me.
Yes, sir. Yeah, you're one of the finest, brother. One of the finest. Man, really, it kind of goes way back, like, going to the barbershop as a kid, like, I don't know how familiar you are with it, but I went to Jerry's, in High Springs, and that's almost like a staple out there, and I just always loved that feel and the smell and everything. And, seeing the older guys cut up in that kind of environment, I just thought it was great. And then, like, say, fast forward a little bit, I was serving time overseas in Afghanistan, and I was bitching and complaining to my buddy, and I was like, man, when I get out, or when I get back, I'm getting the fuck out of the army, man. I'm not doing this no more. And he's like, well, like, what are you gonna do? Like, what's the plan? And I said, honestly, like, at that time, I had just recently discovered like pomade, like true pomade, and I was getting into my hair. It sounds weird, like, dude, you chose the time of a deployment to get into your hair and your style, but I fucking did, man. And my buddy went on to tell me that his cousin owned a barbershop in Augusta, Georgia, and he was super successful, like really busy, and he made good money, and like he's working for himself. And ultimately that's what I wanted. Like I wanted something where I could work for myself. Like I didn't really have a lot of job experience before the Army. Like other than being a bagger and cashier at Winn-Dixie, but so like I got into the Army and
Winn-Dixie, man.
Do what?
We've all worked at Winn-Dixie.
Hey, it's a great dude. I started there like I think 15 years old. So like as a bagger, and I thought I was making decent money at that age, but
yeah, you are, because you didn't have to pay for anything, which brings us back to fatherhood, right? Like my kids always have money because they have like these little part-time jobs, and I'm like, it's time for you to pay rent.
Yeah, yeah, shit. Yeah, I mean, I ended up starting to buy my own school clothes and stuff, but that's only because I started to get picky about style,
Right. So obviously, deciding to be a barber was a decision that you made, not just because you were, frustrated with, the dirt in your boots and the dirt in your hair from being in the sands of Afghanistan, right? I mean, but from the standpoint of like, it literally is a very lucrative and profitable and revenue driven industry. I mean, your costs can be pretty low. I mean, your clippers can be expensive, but it's a one-time buy or biannual purchase, right? And then it's really about sharpening your blades and sharpening your scissors and those things that you have to keep up on. But,
yes, sir.
But other than that, it's really about building your clientele, right? And so one of the things that I know about Gents and Co is that whenever I go in there, brother, there's always somebody in all four of those chairs, right? And you guys are constantly pushing fly haircuts out the door by putting, good paying customers in the seats. And that's because you guys do such a fantastic job. But one of the things that it stresses is, your work-life balance. I mean, you're putting in a lot of hours. So how do you juggle the fact that you have such an amazing family with very active kids and a wife who probably likes to see you every now and then?
Yeah. Well, I mean, ultimately it all comes down to working for myself. Like in the beginning, when I first started barbering, I was working under a different shop, and it was hustle and grind. Like I didn't have a choice. Like if I wanted my dream to work, that was my time frame. I gave myself a year, and by the end of that year, things were looking pretty good. And I was like, me and Raul, like we got to talking, and we're like, yo, I think we could do this. So we separated ourselves and we started our own thing. And we did it because we both had young families, but we wanted to spend time with our families, but also work the way we wanted to. So we just like it was a little bit of trial error in the beginning. Like we used to work Monday through Saturday when we first opened the shop, and Saturday was like a half day. We'd stop at 12, and then it got to a point to where we said, you know what, we're going to take Saturdays off. Let's move on to, we'll make half days Wednesdays. And then we're like, well, dang, why we got it in the middle of the week? Let's move it to Friday. And because we operated on a schedule, we didn't have that consistent. I mean, we didn't have that super busy like Friday afternoon like you would in a walk-in barbershop. So it didn't hurt either where that half day was. So we made it so we're like, damn, now every weekend is a 2.5 day weekend, like we get it started early, we get to spend time with our families. Like
Right.
I'm in control of my schedule. I could put people where I want. So like now, like we just have it set up. We got things going on. Like, I've already taken that time off, or, I've already separated that time for my family. And I mean, ultimately, that's why I started this business, was not only because it was something I wanted to do, but because it gave me the opportunity to create time and be with my family. And that's really it.
Man, that
Like,
is literally the goal of every entrepreneur, right?
yeah, absolutely.
There are, let me take that back. It's not necessarily the goal of every entrepreneur. Some
Hmm.
entrepreneurs are really out there hustling and grinding so that they can find fame and fortune, right?
Yes, sir.
And then there are dads who are entrepreneurs. And that difference, like that mindset, that responsibility burden that we have on our shoulders, right, as being a
Yeah.
dad, kind of offsets that fame and fortune. Not like we don't want it,
Hmm.
but it becomes secondary to the fact that we want something better for our family, and how can I get it to them, right? And
Yes,
so
sir. Yes, sir.
utilizing the skills that you've learned and the talent that you have to do things that people want, right? There is value in a good barber. I hear it all the time. Like, I
Yeah.
can't find anybody who could cut my hair the way that I want it to, or consistently. So
Yes.
tell me a little bit about, your training in barbering. Is it really just time on a skull?
Uh, to be completely honest with you, that's when I got like the most training, is when I was just hands on doing the cuts. Like, there's book work and stuff, but book work is mainly like that just taught us like how to be clean and sanitary, and not like, if you see something dirty, like don't spread it, like
Right.
that should be like
Common
second nature to
sense
some
approach.
people, but
Right.
sadly it's not. So that's really what school was ultimately about. I mean, I did get time behind the chair, of course, because you got lab hours and stuff, but most of it was like maybe buzz cuts, or
Right.
like
Right. Right.
pretty simple things. Especially because like Mondays were free haircuts for veterans. So like, uh, dude, most of those guys, they just wanted their head
The high
shaved
and
or
tight.
whatever. Or yeah, like real simple high and tights. I didn't get like, I got almost all my experience just doing the damn shit, like just working, bro. Like, I'll never forget the very first haircut I ever had to do, and in the first barbershop I worked at, it was a mohawk fade on a kid, and it was down to the skin. And dude, it took me every bit of an hour and a half, but I had no idea how to even approach the haircut. I was just like, he showed me a picture, and I was like,
I
all
could
right,
do that.
I just visualized it on the head and made it happen. Like, it took a long time, the kid was antsy and stuff, but yo, I
Hey,
got it
you
done.
got it done, and you got it done
Yeah.
right. So let's talk about your kids. Do you make your kids pay like you make me pay?
My kids, no, actually, my son's lucky. Like, I bring my stuff home for him on the weekends, and do it in the kitchen while he's watching his cartoons or whatever. Like,
They're
he got
always
it
looking
easy.
fly though, right?
Huh?
Is it like weekly or bi-weekly haircuts for your kids?
No, no. Sadly, I'm lazy when it comes to that. So it's like maybe once a month.
It's like you see your wife in there just cutting hair, but like, I know he can do this, but here I am doing it myself, just
Oh
like I
yeah,
do everything else in this house.
there's been times in the past she's threatened to take him somewhere else.
Like, we're going to Great Clips.
Yeah, she would never do that, but
Okay, just checking.
she would do something petty, like go to one of the other guys in the barber shop.
Like, who's your child? Like,
Yeah,
you over there be
exactly.
like,
Mhm.
okay, all right.
Yeah,
No, that's totally funny. So obviously, some of the things that we like to talk about is, fun times that you have with your kids, right?
yeah,
And maybe you can share some of that. Like recently, you told me that you guys went on um, uh, a camping trip, but it was a four-wheeling camping trip, and you had some really great moments with your kids. The one thing that it wasn't necessarily funny, but it was really a great uh, example of escaping technology,
Yes.
escaping these types of things. So share that with me.
Oh, like when we go on these trips, like I understand that like a lengthy car ride can be pretty boring to a child. Like, I mean, cause shit, it even is for me sometimes, and
You driving.
sometimes we're starting the trip off with like a 4 to 6 hour drive, like our start destination is 4 to 6 hours away. So we got to make it there, and
Right.
it's a drive. So I allow them to bring their devices to entertain themselves on the road, but it's really like the times when we like actually hit the trail, like my son, he's a little younger, so like he tend to be a little more locked in on his games and stuff. But my daughter, the last trip that we went on, she put her stuff down, window was rolled down, and the girl was like admiring everything she was seeing. It was incredible. Like every time we get out of the trucks to look at an obstacle, she's right there behind me and she's checking it out, and I don't know, like I find it's always a good reset for myself, and I don't like make them like get off. Sorry.
No, that's okay. My phone was bleeping and you got a dog barking, but don't worry about that.
Yeah.
We're family men, man. There's more than
Yeah.
us in the house, right?
Yeah. Sadly, I got three of them. Hey. Shh. Yeah, but yes, I don't prevent them from being on it 100%. There is like actually the last trip that I took them on, I was like, yo, when we get to camp, y'all setting up your own tent. I said, you got this responsibility, you got this responsibility, and I said the roles are reversed in the morning. Okay, so like I make sure that whenever we get there, they're helping and they are involved in like setup and how things are going and how I operate. But then once that's done, I'm like, yo, go have your time. If you want to, whether that's be on your devices, be on your device or whatever. But like I give them the option, and my daughter's really the only one that really appreciates what's around her right
I
now.
think it's because she's just a little bit older, right? And
Yes,
she's starting to
absolutely.
recognize that, there's more to what they're doing than what's in their hands, right? And I think
Absolutely. Yeah.
also, man, that's a really cool thing to do. I mean, I remember going camping as a kid. Now, when I was a kid, we didn't have internet, right? We didn't
Yeah.
have cell phones. It was dial up and rotary phones when I was a kid. But times have changed, and
Yes, they
we have
have.
to kind of change along with that as in our parenting skills. But some of the things that I just loved was the fact that there's so much to do if you just think about doing it, like
Yes.
climbing trees and walking down trails and getting frogs, or whatever
Yep.
the case may be. I don't know how often girls do that, but the reality is, you know parents who take their kids out into the wilderness on a four-wheel trek adventure, right?
Yes, sir.
They have so much exposure to nature that they shouldn't be bored, right? And I think your daughter gets that.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, this, a few weeks ago, we did like a whole family camp thing out at Jenny, and I did find her to be a little bored, but that's because like the girl really wanted to go swimming. Like she
Right,
wanted to
in
spend her
the
time.
water with the dead body.
Oh, goodness, man. That traumatized my son, sadly.
Dude,
Yeah.
unfreaking real.
Yeah. It's sad, man.
We ain't going to Jenny anymore.
No, I mean, honestly, like, even as sad as a moment that was, because like, dude, I grew up on that river and I've always heard about that kind of stuff happening. I just never seen it firsthand. And, to see that, like, it really, like, it kind of put things into perspective for me, but it really allowed us it gave us the opportunity to teach at that point in time.
Yeah.
Because, both of my kids, especially when it comes to swimming and stuff, they're just like, screw it, and they just fucking go, and they think like there's nothing that can hurt them, and like, yo, this was a 40 something year old man who went in the water and never came back up, so like it could happen to absolutely anybody. And
Yeah, it's
yeah,
it's really
sad.
but the educational side of that is not like, today we're going to be learning about death, children. It's like,
Yeah.
obviously, it's more like, this is reality,
This is
right?
real
And the
life. Yes.
reality is
Yeah.
we don't have tomorrow promised.
Yep.
No matter how good we are or how amazing we think we can do something, there's no promise of tomorrow. And so being cautious, being aware, being hyper vigilant as parents, is that educational moment. So I'm glad that you had an opportunity to kind of instill some of that new real world knowledge into kids who can be oblivious to the reality
Yep.
of what's happening around them, right? And
Mhm.
so as a kid, I remember my dad would be like, hey, we're gonna go this place, and he'd be like, you know how to get there? And I'd be like, yeah, a left, a right, fall asleep, wake up, I'm there, right? That was the whole concept of me going places. But as soon as I got a driver's license, I'm like, how did I get there again? And I
Yeah.
didn't have GPS, right? So I'm like,
Yep.
like,
Yeah.
it's crazy. So being aware of these things in life as children, even though that's a completely opposite, imagery, right? It is still important. So as traumatic as it is, it's actually very making them very aware. So
Yeah.
it sucks, but if you
It
could
does,
put a
man.
positive spin on it, man, that's what I would think that you've done.
Yeah, I mean, I take any moment I can to teach them, and sadly, like I hate to use that as an example, but it's a great example, like
Yeah.
you're not invincible in this world at all.
I mean, nobody is, not even
No,
dads, us super dads.
that's right. Yeah,
We're we are
I know
not
that firsthand,
invincible.
man. My dad was a super dad.
Yeah, man. And after about 6 or 7 beers, I am super dad,
Oh.
but I still can't fly. And I
You can
shouldn't be
try.
driving either, and I won't. So drink responsibly. That's my disclaimer.
Always.
So from the standpoint of your shop, right? I've been thinking about this a little bit, like how, like I've talked to you, like you guys should have like a live feed all the time in your shop, like go into a YouTube channel, just each of you having like your own little camera that feeds
Yeah.
into one channel that is funny, and you can just press pause when you guys are going to talk about, something that nobody really wants to talk about. But most of the time, barbershop conversation is crude fun, never rude fun, right? And so
That's true. Yes.
it's
Yeah.
it's you guys aren't bashing people. You're just talking about things that are like, this can be funny if you do this, right? And so
Yeah.
I was thinking we could also create some fun games in your barbershop. You want to hear one of them?
Yeah. Yeah. Sure. Let me hear it.
All right, so this is the game, right? So what we'll do is we'll create a cardboard box that goes underneath one. You have to, it's low, it's like you choose a card, whatever card it is, the highest card wins. That cardboard box goes underneath one of your barbers chairs, and it's a roulette table, like, and around that where they have to work, they would spin their client, random
Oh.
client number 5 of the day, barber number 3, you're going to get it. Now, number 5 of the day, they get a free haircut, but the chair decides what style it's going to be. And so you
Oh
just
shit.
spin it around in a circle. And so they're like, oh, look at that. I get a high top fade.
Oh my god. Bro, hey, I always jokingly tell people that I do buzz cuts for free, so it's hilarious, especially with the kids. I'm like, oh, I shave it bald for free, and they're like, no, it's the funniest shit.
So they have a disclaimer that they read as they walk through the door in really, really small print. It's like you might get the haircut roulette today.
Oh shit.
It's free. They
Yeah,
walk out like a
bro.
completely new person.
Oh my
And it's like
gosh.
one of your famous people, like Steve Spurrier's in there and be like,
Hey, some people could probably benefit from something like that, because a lot of people can't make up their mind for crap, man.
so I'll be honest with you. That's one of my problems, right?
Yeah.
I have had multiple style haircuts, but lately when I go in there, you're like, same thing. I'm like, yep. I mean,
Yeah.
it works for me, right? But I can't imagine like what kind of clientele you have. Like, what is the worst haircut you've done because they wanted to try something new, and you were like, your hair ain't right for that, but I'm going to do it.
Man, I don't even think that I could think of a specific time or specific haircut because like I've done,
'Cause you're that good.
no, I've done a lot of like, I don't know, man. Like, it's nobody wants to ever be the guy to be like, hey man, it's time to let it go or whatever, like nobody wants to be that guy. So like we just make it work sometimes.
Honestly, like when I think about like there's like certain trades and that people have that they have a secondary trade in psychology, right? And that is barbers and bartenders, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Those two trades, right? They are there to help whoever's in front of them, one,
Oh yeah.
find the right brew to drink, or two, the right haircut for their head shape. And
Yeah.
it's important for you guys to be honest, but like, hey, listen, I know you've been doing this for years, but let me just try something new.
Uh-huh.
If you don't like it, your next haircut's on me, right? I mean, just something crazy like that. But the reality is, you guys have so much influence with somebody, and I love that about your shop. And you guys are fun. You guys are fun all the time.
Yeah,
And
I mean, shit, it's fun for us to be that way. So like, and it definitely helps the time go by.
no, absolutely. So tell us,
Golly.
where could we find your shop? And if somebody wanted to book an appointment with one of your guys, how could they find it?
Man, we're on Facebook, we're on Instagram, just Gents and Co Barbershop. If you looking to a little further than that, like we got a website, gentsand.co, and when you go on there, it's got all of our information, booking links, all that kind of stuff. Everything you need is on there. Price list, hours of operation, whatever you need.
Right. And so, and one of the things that I would recommend, and I'll say this because I have made this mistake in the past, if you happen to get a haircut, book your next one when you're done.
When you're done.
Right. And so that's just my little coup d'etat for the information section of this podcast, man. Hey, listen, Austin, I am so grateful that you're here. Let's get another big old cheers. Did you just pound your beer? Is it still there?
No, it's still here.
All right,
Still
good deal.
here.
Thank you, everybody, for joining me today on Two Dads Having a Beer. And I want to give a big special thank you to our guest dad, Austin Blanton of Gents and Co, father of two, husband of one, wife, unless you're Mormon, in which case there's going to be a new show called Two Dads Having a Beer with a Dad of Many Wives. But that's probably not going to happen. So anyways, listen, thank you so much for joining us today. Please follow us on all of the social media. You can find us on Facebook, you can find us on Instagram, and you can find us on TikTok. We'll be posting these things also on our YouTube channel. And of course, it'll be a live full episode that you can find on Spotify of Two Dads Having a Beer. Austin, man, you were awesome today. I can't wait for you to get my haircut. I have it already booked in my phone. Thank you again.
Thank you,
have
brother.
a great night. Thank you.
Later, man.
See ya.